Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to Bill's Retro Gaming Show. On this video, I am going to be looking ahead to 2023 and looking at iiRcade on some of the things that, some of the things that we know are coming from them because they've been talking about them for a while now, and then some things that I personally would love to see them do for the year. This is my 2023 wish list for iiRcade, and it's coming up right after this. Alright, as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching this video. If this is your first time on the channel, don't forget to hit that subscription button. Click the notification bell if you want to be notified every time I put up a new video. Give this one a thumbs up and leave a comment below if you want to be part of the conversation. Now, I did a couple of videos recently about Arcade 1-Up, one of which was a look ahead to 2023 and some of the things that I would like to see them do, some of the changes that I would love to see them make throughout the year. So I figured, why not give the same treatment to iiRcade? Now, some of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about are things that we know are supposed to be coming from them this year. Like I said, they have been talking about these things for a while now, and fingers crossed that we will get to see them in the new year. And then there's some things that I'm just going to add to the mix that I would love to see them do. Don't know how possible they are. Don't know if they're things that are in the work. But, hey, maybe if they're listening, we'll see. So let's just jump right in. And, again, similar to, videos I've done in the past, I just have some notes that I jotted down here. They're in no particular order. This is not like a top 10, top 5, anything like that. I'm just kind of go through things like as it came to me and talk about that stuff. And let's start talking about one of the biggest things for iiRcade, which is their games. And of course, on the iiRcade store right now, they obviously have a huge selection of games in multiple categories. We just come off the Christmas season, and they just did 2 months worth of sales on all their games, starting all the way back around Thanksgiving and going all the way through till just after Christmas here. Pretty much every game on their site was on sale. Now, obviously, things are back to their normal prices right now, but I'm sure at some point in the new year they will be doing another sale. But that's not really the point I wanted to make on this. What I really wanted to talk about are the games themselves. So one of the things that iiRcade is known for is that they consider themselves to be basically a home console in arcade form. And all their games are a la carte. You buy the games that you want for the system instead of just having a bunch of games, whether you want them or not. Now, it's an interesting model. It's one that seems to work for them for the most part. And they've really kind of a very interesting mix of old school arcade games and more modern games, some of which are a lot of them, I should say, are actually in a kind of a retro style, very much feel like they could have been old school arcade games, but they're brand new games. Things like Longhead, Donut Dodo, Galacticon, a lot of these recent games that have come out that are modern, new games, but they're designed to appeal to the retro nostalgia. And then, of course, there are the old school arcade games. Again, very recently at the end of the year, they just put a whole bunch of old IREM arcade games on there. Games like R-Type Leo, Vigilante. They have Ninja Baseball Batman coming, and I'm going to talk about that one in specifically very soon as I keep going on here. But what do they have planned for 2023? Now, iiRcade really does like to keep things very close to the vest when it comes to their games, and there's a couple of different reasons for that. Some of it has to do with licensing agreements, some of it has to do with the programming and making sure everything works right before they put it on their system. So a lot of times we really don't know what's coming from them until it's launched. So I have a few thoughts on that. First off, I would love to see them continue with the model that they've been doing, a mix of old school arcade games and more modern games. I think some of the more modern games have actually taken me by surprise because I'm more a classic arcade guy. But I will just, for instance, during the sale, I picked up Dead Cells. Now, I enjoy playing Dead Cells on my PlayStation. I thought it was a fun game. I didn't know how I was going to feel about it in an arcade style machine, and I gotta tell you, it's now one of my favorite games on the system. I'm addicted to that game. I love playing it. Not something I would have thought. Like I said, I'm more an old school guy. I've been enjoying the IREM games in particular. I think they have been fantastic. So yes, I would love to see them continue to do this mix, especially games that are in more of that retro style, like a Donut Dodo, Galacticon. I think those games really work very well on iiRcade. So I hope that they will continue with that. Having said that, in terms of some of the older games, I would love to see them continue to get games from some of the publishers that they've done in the past. I'd love to see more Taito games, Data East. Sega, of course, is a big one. They've got a handful of Sega games. There are so many classic Sega arcade games that would be a great fit for the iiRcade. And then, of course, there's the big hitters. You've got the Midways, the Capcoms, the Konamis. No idea how feasible those kind of games are because they may be locked in agreements with other companies. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But, hey, look, if they can get some of those, that would be fantastic. This whole year we've been hit with this whole thing about AAA titles, bangers, whatever you want to call them. I don't like getting into all of that because I think these gameplay is so very subjective. Something that, one person likes is not going to be somebody else's cup of tea at all. So, gameplay is always subjective. Me personally, I love some of the hidden gems that are on there, the things that you wouldn't necessarily have thought to play. I think getting games like Vigilante on there is fantastic. It's not one that you would necessarily see from another publisher. So, to me, that kind of stuff is great. So I would love to see them continue to bring on old classic arcades while also catering to the people who want more of the modern stuff on there. There are certain things that, me personally, again, no interest in the Clawscraft game that just came out, that Bears is fighting game, Casino Golf, whatever. Those games just didn't really hold interest to me, but I've heard from people who say they're fantastic. So, everybody has their own thoughts and feelings on what kind of games that they would like. So, look, we know they're going to continue to release games throughout the year. It's their model. They have to. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of games they could possibly bring to the system this year. Now, I mentioned one game in particular, and I just want to touch on this really quick, and that game was Ninja Baseball Batman. Now, that's a game that they announced probably about a month ago, and we haven't seen it come to the system yet, and I think I know why that might be. Now, one of the things that they've also announced recently is that they're adding 4-player support to the iiRcade system. Now, obviously, iiRcade currently does not make a 4-panel control board for their system. Now, is that something maybe a third party could do? Possibly. It would depend on how that would work within their software. But the point is that they are planning on doing it through online capabilities, letting 2 people play on one cabinet versus 2 people on another cabinet to enable 4-player play. Now, that's obviously not ready yet, or they would have launched it. They've said recently at the very end of this year that it's something that they're still tweaking and working on. My guess is that they don't plan on releasing Ninja Baseball Batman until they have the software updated for that 4-player option, in order to have those things coincide, so that they launch 4-player capability and have a big title to go with it, like Ninja Baseball Batman. I think there are 1 or 2 other games on there that might take advantage of that. There's some 3-player games that also might take advantage of that going forward. But I think that's why we haven't seen Ninja Baseball Batman yet, is because they're waiting for that 4-player option to be 100% ready to go before, and then they'll launch the 2 of them together. Hopefully that will be early this year, maybe within the next week or 2, as this video has come out. We will see that. But that's my thought on that. That once they enable 4-player, that's when we'll see a game like Ninja Baseball Batman, and hopefully we will see more 4-player enabled games come to the system throughout the year. So I'll add that onto my wish list for the types of games that they plan on bringing to the system. Give us more 4-player games to go with that option that you're adding to the system. Now, one thing we also know is that third-party accessories are in the work. Glenn's Retro Show is working on a special controller to swap out of there that adds trackballs, adds spinners to the mix. So hopefully that's something we will see too. Now, there are certain games on there that I think will work very well with trackballs and spinners already, but I would like to see more games that are dedicated to that, games that were specifically designed to be trackball games or spinner games. Hopefully it's something that obviously that they can work out so that they will work with the standard joysticks as well, so that people who don't get those controls won't be left out and won't have games, won't be able to play those particular games. But look, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really care if they add a game to the system that not everybody can play. And I know that may sound a little harsh, but hear me out. You know, if you're adding 1 or 2 games to your system every week, you know, to put a couple of games on there that are very specific to specific controls and people don't have those controls, is not necessarily the worst thing in the world. Now, again, you may feel completely different. I have a feeling, just knowing the way that they've worked on stuff and knowing the way that they want to make sure that every game that they put on the system is playable in one way, shape, or form. So my guess is, even if a game was designed for trackball or spinner, they will find a way to get it to work with button configurations or joysticks so that people can't be left out. You know, another area obviously is light guns. We know light guns, Sinden light guns, are going to be coming to iiRcade. The first game that they've announced for that is Operation Wolf, and they have already said that Operation Wolf will work with the joystick as well. You will not need a light gun to play it, although obviously that's the preferred method. Now, I'm also hoping that they add support and options for trackball too, so that if you don't have a light gun but you do have a trackball controller, you would be able to play that game. I think that would be fantastic. Now, going down that road as well, we need more light gun games. If you're going to spend $100-something to buy a Sinden light gun to plug into your iiRcade, you want more than one game to go with it. So I'm hoping for some big titles to come on there. You know, certainly a game like Operation Thunderbolt, which is the sequel to Operation Wolf, seems like a no-brainer if they're going to put Operation Wolf on there. They have Sega titles. How about House of the Dead? People have been clamoring for House of the Dead on an arcade machine for a long time now, so I think that would be a great addition to iiRcade. And of course, there are any number of other light gun games. It's obviously going to depend on licensing, of course, just like anything else. So we'll have to wait and see what they have on offer. But I'm hoping to see more light gun games come out. And maybe, you know, once they get closer to being ready to fully announce light gun support, we'll hear more on that. Now, in terms of third-party controls, and this is an area that's a little bit out of iiRcade's hands, but not completely, because they have to make sure that the software is compatible with it. They do have a handful of racing games on there, and I think playing the racing games, like say with a spinner, is probably going to be a lot of fun. But playing it with dedicated racing controls, I think, would be even better. You look at a company like the Buy Stuff Store, which made that attachment for Glenn's flight yoke that you could use, say, like with an iiRcade, or you know, with the Nat Games Ultimate or whatever. I think something like that could work with the iiRcade, and whether it's through Bluetooth or whether it's plugs into USB, maybe plug in one for the racing control, maybe plug something else in. Maybe you can have paddles, to go on the floor for your gas and your... Did I say paddles? I meant pedals. I don't know why I said paddles. Pedals for the floor for, you know, your gas and your brake and whatever. And use those with games like Cisco Heat on the iiRcade, or maybe give that the ability to add more racing games. I think would be fantastic. So those of you who are out there who are working on third-party controls, you know, maybe consider a racing option to add to it. I think would be fantastic. And just getting back to the whole thing about the games that are going to be released, again, like I said, I know a lot of times with this, because of licensing agreements, they have to wait and announce things until they're actually ready to launch. But I thought it was fantastic when they did a video and they announced the IREM games that were coming towards the end of the year here. When we got that video, and we got like 4 or 5 of them right in a row, we're gonna bring out this one, and then we're gonna bring out this one, and then we're gonna bring out this one, and then we're gonna do Moon Patrol, and surprise, Moon Patrol, we launched it, boom! I thought that was great. I would love to see them do more of that throughout the year. Like I said, I know there are going to be certain titles that can't be announced until they're ready to launch, but if you've got a bunch from a specific publisher that you know are coming in there close, do those kind of things. Let people know ahead of time what's coming. Build some hype for those games, I think, is a good way to go for them. So I'm hoping we see more of that from them throughout the year as well. That we get kind of a mix of, you know, some idea of what's launching at certain times, and then some surprises where, hey, boom, here's a game, we just put it on the system. All right, let me step back for a minute and let me talk about a couple of things that we know are supposed to be coming from them hopefully this year, because like I said, they've been talking about these for a while, and these are things that I'm hoping actually come sooner in the year rather than later. One of them being an update to the UI. Now, while the UI is not awful on iiRcade, it's also not the best. I would love to see an update to that. I would love to get some information from them on what it's supposed to look like, at least a little bit. Give us a little teaser, give us a little tidbit of what you're working on. Would be great. I think it would build some hype for it if that's possible. If there's a way that you could kind of show off what you've been working on, I think that would be great. Like I said, I know they like to keep these things close to the vest. They don't want to show something and then have it get a complete redesign, and then it looks like they showed something that was never going to happen. I understand that. I know how that works. So like I said, I'm looking forward to the new UI. I have no clue what it's going to look like, what kind of things they're going to add to it. I think some kind of a search feature would be nice. There's a favorites menu on there. I would love to be able to rearrange the favorites into alphabetical order or some kind of order on it if possible, because right now they just kind of go in as you put them in. That would be great. Having the store right on the iiRcade as opposed to having an app or the website that you have to go to and then they get downloaded to the system, I think would be great. So hopefully these are things that make it into the UI, and I'm sure there's others that other people can think of, but those are just a couple of things that I'm looking forward to that I would like to see. So another thing they've been working on this past year is online support for online play for games. Now, this is still in an alpha stage. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's not something that I have really gotten into being able to try yet. To be quite honest with you, every time that I've clicked on a game, gone to online play to see if there's anybody who will play with me, nothing happens. Either there's nobody playing that game or nobody knows that I'm waiting to play or whatever. I think it's the kind of thing where if I want to try it out, I got to reach out to some of my friends who own an iiRcade and say, hey, let's play a game together, just so I can see what it's like. All right. But having said that, hopefully it's something that they can get out of the alpha stage at some point this year. Hopefully it's something that they can continue to add on support for. They have not enabled any of their older games for online play in a while now. The newer games that have come out recently have come out with online play enabled right from the start, and I think that's fantastic. I hope that's something they continue going forward as well, that new games will get their online support the day that they launch. But there's still a lot of older games that could benefit from online play that need to be added. So hopefully that's something that they continue to do early into 2023 as well. Now, in addition, I would like to see them add more features, whether it's lobbies or spectate mode or something, some way that you can know who's playing that you can play a game with. It'd be nice if there was a jump in feature for some games. Like, let's say you're playing a fighting game and you're just playing against the computer. Having the ability to enable like a jump in mode where maybe somebody sees that you're playing that game and jumps in and wants to fight a match with you, I think would be something that's fantastic, and maybe something they can work on throughout this year as they continue to build this and push it out of the alpha stage. Now, one other thing that I would absolutely love to see, and again, I don't know how feasible this particular thing is, but I think it would be great if at some point they could add individual settings for individual games. Now, hear me out and let me explain what I mean. If you go into certain games, some of the more modern games like Donut Dodo or Galacticon or even a game like Dragon's Lair, which is an older game, but it's kind of built around its own particular program, if you will, within iiRcade. When you launch that game, it launches into a menu system before you play the game, but it's got its own settings. You can choose whether you have 3 or 5 lives, whether you play the arcade version or the home version, different things like that. Now, you go to some of the older classic arcade games, and in the arcades, these games had physical dip switches on the boards that you could set as an arcade owner for different settings, whether it was number of lives, whether it's additional lives at certain score levels or bonuses at certain score levels, or whether it was, to make the game faster or harder or this or that. I would love to see that get added to some of these older arcade games on the iiRcade. Now, they have settings for each game, but those settings are really just, graphical settings at this point, whether it's enabling scan lines or CRT features or pixel perfect or, things of those nature. I think having like the for lack of a better term, the dip switch game settings for individual games would make replayability on some of those older games even better. So that's something that, again, I don't know if that requires changes to each game individually, if that's something to the emulator in the back end that they have to work on. No clue. But hey, it's a suggestion. Guys, if you're watching this video, it's a suggestion. I would love to see individual settings for individual games. All right, I just want to take a minute also and just talk about a couple of things that I think need to be addressed in terms of iiRcade. A lot of what I talked about are new features or just, add-on things I'd love to see them do going forward. There's a couple of things going on with the cabs that I think, and I have a feeling that they've talked about these things and they know about them and they plan on addressing them. It's just a matter of when. So hopefully it's something that can be done relatively soon as we get into 2023. Now, the first thing has to do with the pause feature on the iiRcade. Now, that is a great feature, being able to pause any game at any time, and then, you're playing a game, the phone rings, pause it. Your wife calls you because she needs help with the granddaughter. Pause the game. You can come back to it. That's great, but I've found, at least for me, and you guys can tell me if your experience is the same or different, and if you pause certain games, when you come back to them, they tend to experience a little bit of slowdown, or if the game, if not the game, then the audio tends to be a little like stuttery when you come back from off of the pause menu. So I'm hoping that that's something that they can address and they can get fixed on that, is to fix it so that when you pause the game, when you come back, it just runs as well as it was running before you paused it, to get rid of whatever is causing that slowdown. Now, in addition to that, I know they've been making some back-end changes to leaderboards, global leaderboards. They went to, I guess, their version 2.0 of how the leaderboards work with nicknames and different things like that. Now, I've tend to notice that a couple of the games have weird issues with the leaderboards. Like I'll be playing a game that I know I didn't get a very good score on it, but I'll look and it has me on the leaderboard at whatever the lowest score to hit the leaderboard was meant to be. Is on there. I don't know how else to say it. And I've also seen things where I know I should be on the leaderboard and I'm not. I know certain people have had issues with nicknames where it's showing them as unregistered instead of their nickname. So I know there seems to be some glitches with the global leaderboards. Now, whether that is an overall back-end issue, whether that's an individual game issue with the way that each individual game handles leaderboards, not sure. But again, it's something that I would love to see addressed and something that I would like to see fixed. It's a minor thing for sure, but it's something that it would be nice if they could address and get fixed. And then finally, and I know this is a sore spot for people, and I know that this is not, this is something that may or may not happen at some point in the future, and this has to do with the 1.0 cabs, the original iiRcade cabs. Now, with the addition of some of these third-party supports, whether it is new control panels or whether it's light guns or things like that, the way that they're going to have to work with the old cabs has to do with them going through Bluetooth, because the old cabs do not have USB ports like the new gold cabs do. Now, as of right now, let's take light guns, for example. As of right now, there are no Bluetooth light guns available that would really work with the iiRcade. Now, that may change in the future, but for now, they have to be wired only. Again, I know a lot of people have been complaining about this. I'm not going to say whether they're right or wrong on it, other than to say that I understand their frustration, and it would be nice if iiRcade could come up with some form of way to get around that, whether that's some kind of USB to Bluetooth dongle that a light gun plugs into and then communicates via Bluetooth. Again, I don't know how feasible that is with latency and things like that. Whether it's creating an add-on to add USB ports to the 1.0 cabs, whether it's some kind of upgrade path, maybe a trade-in. You can trade in your 1.0 for a gold or whatever and get a discount on the gold. I don't know. I have no idea what they could possibly do. But I do know that I have heard people's frustration and complaints, feeling like they're being left out for certain features if they bought an original, especially those people who have been around since the Kickstarter. So, if there's some way, any way that they could address that, I think that would be fantastic. Now, again, I don't know how feasible that is. I don't even know if it's something that they can really do, other than to say, we're trying our best in terms of things like, say, with the light gun games, letting them work through joystick, talking to third parties to see if there's any way that a Bluetooth one could work. I don't know. But if there was something they could do to make it compatible with the 1.0s, I think that would be fantastic. Just throwing that out there. All right, and I'm just going to wrap up this video with one last thing, all right? And again, going back to the gold cabs. Now, the gold cabs launched in 2022, and they have been fantastic. The 4 ones that they announced, the Space Invaders, Dragon's Lair, the black one that you can skin as Double Dragon, and the Dead Cells, all look great. They're fantastic looking cabs. Now, obviously, they have the black one with the vinyl off of it that you can add on, where you could basically make your own cab and skin it any way you want by going out and getting different artwork for it. But having said that, if these gold cabs have been that successful, I would love to see them add additional skins in the new year. If you're going to ramp up production of more gold cabs for 2023, then do them in different skins. I know people have talked about maybe a Sydney Hunter skin, maybe a Space Ace to go with the Dragon's Lair. If you're going to do light guns, maybe do an Operation Wolf. So they have so many games. There are so many to choose from that they could do different skins for. So I would love to see them maybe come out with some new gold cabs in 2023 with different skins from the 4 original that they released. But I'm going to stop here. I think that's enough for this particular video. That is my wish list. That is some things I would love to see iiRcade do in 2023. Leave me some notes in the comments. What do you think about the things that I brought up? What would you love to see from iiRcade? Because I know there's probably things that you guys are thinking of that I didn't mention in this video. Leave them in the comments. I want to see. I want to know what you guys think and what you would love to see from iiRcade in 2023. That's going to do it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if this is your first time, don't forget to hit that subscription button. Click the notification bell if you want to be notified whenever I put up a new video. Give this one a thumbs up. And please leave me some comments. Let me know your thoughts on iiRcade for 2023. I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.